Hello, my name's Elise. This is live. As you can probably tell, I just got booted out of my own Zoom room for whatever reason. I am so excited you're here because tonight we are going over our webinar, which is mistakes to avoid when studying for your oncology specialist certification exam. Before we dive into that, please, 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 in the chat, we have a dynamic, exciting evening for us this evening, and I need your typing fingers ready because I'm going to ask you questions and I want this audience participation. We've all been on a boring Zoom call. It's the worst. And especially, I know you're choosing to spend time with me and I want to make this worth your while. So in the chat, let me know, what's your name? Where are you joining us from this evening? My name's Elise, as I'm sure you've probably heard by now. I'm the host of the OncoPT podcast, and I'm here in Fort Worth, Texas. And for once, we have a cold start to December. Normally it's too hot. On Monday, it was 80 degrees. It's finally now back into the 40s, which I'm quite excited for. All right, I'm seeing some Illinois, Michigan, Plano, Texas. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, Texas friend. It's so nice to connect with you here. Tampa, Florida. I bet you have some lovely weather right now. Probably a little warm. Oh man, we've got some all kinds of states here. New Orleans, hello. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited you're here. Perfect. Y'all, let's dive into this. So tonight we are again going to have a very exciting, dynamic experience. I'm going to go ahead and pull up my slides right now. As we go throughout our evening, while I'm pulling this up, whatever questions you have, put them in the chat because we are going to have time to go over them at the end of our session this evening. So make sure if you have questions when they come up, I treasure your questions. Just go ahead and put them in the chat here and we will we'll make sure to grab those at the end too. So let me try this again. Here we go. Again, the delights of going live. Sometimes things work really well and sometimes they don't. So how fun is that? Here we go. Okay, right now you should be seeing my slides that say mistakes to avoid when studying for oncology specialist certification. If I could just get a couple thumbs up or, a yes in the chat for people, I would super, super appreciate that. Again, technical difficulties. I practice this, but not the tech part. So I'm hoping everyone can see me really well. Let me know. Yes, thanks, Yvonne. I appreciate it. Okay, so again, welcome to Mistakes to Avoid When Studying for Oncology Specialist Certification. Let's jump into this, right? Before we get started, tonight is going to be fun. It's going to be interactive. I encourage you, be engaged. The more you're engaged in this, the more you're going to get out of it. Again, nobody likes a boring Zoom call. It's Thursday night, the weekend's almost here. Let's rein it in and let's start it off right. You are going to learn a lot this evening. I highly encourage you, have a notepad and pen ready or have some kind of a document on your device where you can be taking notes because we are going to go fast and furious. You are going to walk away from this knowing exactly what those common mistakes are, why they're made, and then ultimately how to avoid them so that you can implement a more effective study plan as you're going throughout this process. At the end, we're also going to let you know where you can find more information if you're interested. And then I do have a special offer for you because you showed up live, y'all. Thanks for doing that. I appreciate it. So another question, why are you here? Why are you joining me this evening? Number one, so if this is you, put a number one in the chat. Number one, if this is you, I'm buckling down for the 2023, as in just a couple months, oncology specialist exam. You know that this exam is coming up for you. You have registered, you're ready to go. You submitted that case report. If this is you, put a one in the chat. Now, number two, I know I want to take the oncology specialist exam in the future sometime, but not just yet. Maybe in a year or two, maybe even a little longer than that. That's okay too. If this is you, put a two in the chat. Or maybe you're here for a different reason entirely, which is pretty cool. Number three, I'm ready to be an expert OncoPT. That's our abbreviation for oncology physical therapist. So I can better help my patients and my community. As if this is a three for you, go ahead and put three in the chat. Nice. I'm seeing some ones. Okay, we've got some people who are going to be here taking the exam very quickly. Good twos. That's amazing. Okay, I like that. That's amazing. So it seems like most of us here kind of have an idea that, okay, we are definitely looking to take the exam, if not this year, definitely within the next couple years. And that's amazing. I'm really, really excited to hear that. Yeah, very cool. Okay, this gives me an idea of what we're working with here. So most of us at this point, we've heard of the oncology specialist certification exam. Maybe you're even registered to take it in March, which is in just a couple months, or you know you want to take it at some point. But let's talk about why this is really important. It's not just because you get a sexy new title after your name, you know, blah blah physical therapist, board certified oncologic clinical specialist. While that's extremely sexy, I mean, come on, right? Like, who doesn't love a couple extra, letters and names after their own name? That's not really why we do this. That's not really why this exam is so important. Yes, it's cool. Yes, it's great. Okay. Amazing. You took a test, you get a new title. But what is so important right now is that it is no longer enough to simply know the facts of cancer rehab. We, as a profession, as a subspecialty of physical therapy, have really gotten by. We've kind of squeaked by for a while just knowing the basics of cancer rehab because, frankly, it was more than a lot of other people knew. We knew more than the general practitioner so we could better treat these patients, but it is no longer enough to just know the basics of cancer rehab and call it good and say, yep, I know how to help my patients. That's a start. In order to really make lasting, impactful changes for our patients, for our communities, in the way that we need to, because of how aggressively cancer cases are rising, how many more patients are surviving for longer after a cancer diagnosis, here's what we need to do. We must be able to truly actually apply our knowledge to our patients. It's not enough that we just know the generals up here, okay? We have to take the intricacies of cancer rehab, of oncology physical therapy, and actually implement it with our patients so that they can see the changes that are so important to them. And all this comes together. Why the exam melds into all of this is because preparing for the oncology specialist certification exam makes you do that. What better way to become an expert onco PT than by reviewing information you already know, adding in a few extra things, and then actually working to apply this to patients so that you can better go and actually help your patients? I mean, that's all we're all about here, right? So, again, hello, my name is Elise. I am the voice behind the Onco PT. You may have heard my voice on the Onco PT podcast. We have now officially crossed 200 episodes as of earlier this year. We really like talking about oncology physical therapy on there. I am also a board certified oncologic clinical specialist, meaning that I went through this process where you are just a couple years ago. So, I've done I've done the thing, I've walked the walk, I've talked the talk, and now I'm here to make sure that you don't make the same mistakes I did. But probably what's most important to know about me is that I am obsessed with helping physical therapists learn how to better treat patients with cancer. Learn how to treat patients with cancer confidently and competently. There's no lack of patients out there. I'm sure you see this in your own practice. What we need to meet this abundance of people with cancer, we need a knowledgeable, confident, competent workforce who can serve those patients' needs. And that's what I believe I'm here to do. Now, 2 years ago, I was in your exact shoes. I was preparing for the oncology specialist certification exam. And this picture here was my view. So that's my dog, Teddy. He's my whole world. Every waking moment where I wasn't at work, I was studying. Computer, dog, probably a blanket to be comfortable. I squeezed in studying into every possible minute that I could. And it wasn't that I felt good about my studying. I was actually really stressed about the process. I didn't know if, like, okay, am I being effective with my time here? I felt guilty because I was spending so much time studying. I wasn't spending time with my husband or with my dog. I mean, he makes for a good lap warmer, but, I wasn't walking him. I wasn't getting to play with him. I definitely wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't exercising. And probably The most problematic thing behind all of this is that I didn't know if all the work and all the time I was putting into this was actually making a positive difference. I didn't know if I was actually studying the right stuff for this exam that I was working so hard for. And it wasn't until I actually got into the exam that I figured out exactly what I should and shouldn't have been studying, and what I studied that was good, and what I studied that was wrong the whole time that I was spending all this time studying. I shared a little anecdote on earlier this week on my social media. I actually spent so much time studying in such poor posture that I developed trismus. You know, like our patients get, I developed trismus and TMJ issues. So if there was a mistake to be made when it came to studying, I made it. Let's not do that, right? Let's avoid that altogether. So, what we're covering in this evening's webinar are the most common mistakes that physical therapists make during their studying process. And not just the what, but also the why. Why do physical therapists make these mistakes? It's not because they're bad PTs. There's actual very important reasons why we fall into these traps. But I'm also going to share actual strategies to avoid these mistakes altogether and how to actually make them work in your busy life. It's not enough to just tell you these mistakes and say, hey, don't do this. It's how do we actually make this work in your own life? Because I know that you have partners, you have spouses, you have pets, you have children, you have hobbies, you have friends, you have other activities, you have other things you want to be doing and hanging out with than just studying all the time. And I want that for you. Please don't do what I did. And we'll talk more about those mistakes here shortly. And then again, this is a teaser into my brand new program, Oncology Specialist Bootcamp, which I'll be sharing more with you at the end of our session this evening. So our goal for today is to teach you how to avoid the most common mistakes that PTs make, but then also how can we implement an action plan for you to study smarter, not harder, smarter. Now, before we do this, we've got to bust a couple myths because I can already see the gears working in your heads, right? We got to bust a couple myths so that we can all work on these mistakes together. So myth number one is I need 20 plus years of experience as a physical therapist in order to specialize, including in oncology physical therapy. Well, this, my friend, is busted, as I'm sure you can figure out, right? What you need in order to sit for this exam, in order to prepare, in order to study for the oncology specialist certification exam, is you need some experience. Okay, we're not discounting that, but what you need more is actually the excitement and the passion to help these patients. Here's why. The experience is important, but when the studying gets hard, the experience is not going to be what keeps you going in those really tough times. It's not. What you need is the excitement and the passion for these patients as the physical therapist. That's what's really going to keep you motivated. Yes, you can take this exam if you've been practicing for 20 plus years. That's not what I'm saying. But if you're feeling like, well, I just don't have that much experience yet, I'm still learning things, that's okay. What you need is the passion and the excitement for helping these patients. Now, myth number two is I have to already be an expert in oncology physical therapy in order to take the exam. This is super common. I hear this all the time from students. But that's actually false as well, because here's why. Preparing for this exam, preparing for the exam, studying for the exam, applying your knowledge, preparing for the exam is what makes you the expert. Not signing up for the exam, not even taking the exam, not even passing the exam at the end of the day, although that is a goal, right? That is a goal for us. Preparing for this exam is what makes you the expert. Being an expert is not a prerequisite for taking this test. In fact, many of the students that I have worked with previously are not these long-standing experts, giants in the field. They're excited physical therapists who want to help their patients with cancer better. Most of my students previously are not textbook experts. In fact, they've probably been practicing for about 5 years or less. Becoming an expert onco PT for your patients is part of the process. and part of one of the beautiful outcomes of this entire journey that you're choosing to embark on. So let's dive into these mistakes. Am I right? So, mistake number one that PTs make when studying for their exam, their oncology specialist certification exam, is studying the wrong stuff. Now, this sounds very no duh, Elise, right? This sounds very basic. I mean, like oncology specialist certification exam, I'm studying oncology things. But it's not as straightforward as that because what this exam is looking at is your ability to apply your knowledge to actual patient cases. How well can you do that? Now, the problem that we see for many physical therapists, myself included, is that we have learned very well over the years how to pump our brains full of information and then dump it whenever we take whatever exam that is. Maybe that was in PT school for you. Maybe that was your licensure exam. Heck, maybe that was your latest continuing education course. You just got to study to the test, study for the test, and then when you take the test, you just dump all of your information, like poof, in one ear out the other. And that is exactly the opposite of what we should be doing here. Because again, when you study for this exam, you should be studying to apply your knowledge. So as we're going through your studying process, here's how we fix this. Here's how we avoid this mistake. As you're studying, as you're reviewing material, you should ask yourself if the information you're consuming, that you are taking in, that you are filling your brain up with, is actually helpful for patient cases. For example, one of the things that I did a lot early in my study process is I focused a lot on the statistics of each cancer diagnosis. How many people are diagnosed with breast cancer every year? How many people are diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer every year? How many people are diagnosed with progesterone receptor positive breast cancer every year? That doesn't matter for this exam. Is it useful information? Yes. For someone else? Yes. For this exam, how are those stats really going to affect how I examine a patient, how I treat a patient? They're really not. Here's where I should have been spending my time instead. I should have been looking more at the treatment side effects. The treatment side effects are going to impact a lot more of what I do for my patients, what I do with my patients, than the statistics, for example. So again, is that information really helping me apply my knowledge to my patients? Same thing with study protocols. I did this a lot. I spent a lot of time looking at the study protocols. You know, all those articles that are on that endless resource list that you may have seen right now for the exam. I spent so much time looking at those different study protocols and not actually what the conclusion was or what was the big idea behind these study protocols. You know, like how many times a week did they go in for this thing? What were the different phases? What were the different groups of intervention? Nada. Doesn't matter. What I should have been looking at instead were specific exercise prescriptions and dosings for particular impairments. Again, how is the study protocol really going to change or impact how I treat my patients? Probably not a lot. But those dosings and the prescriptions of specific interventions for my patients, much more appropriate when it comes to this content and actually like helping patients, right? Now, mistake number two, studying whenever you feel like it. Yeah, this is common. We're not always in the mood to study, right? I get it. You come home at the end of a long day at work where you have given of yourself to your patients fully. The last thing you probably want to do is come home and study. I mean, don't you just want to take a break? I know I certainly do. And so when we study when we feel like it, our brains associate studying with a feeling. And a lot of times when we feel like we're in the mood for studying, hopefully this is like, man, I've had a really good day. I'm really motivated. I'm going to do this. But what happens is our brains start to associate with, okay, I only study when I feel good. So when I don't feel good, I'm not going to study. Well, we don't always feel good. It's kind of part of being human. So we're kind of conditioning our brains to really only be in the mood, be in the frame to study in very particular times. Let's talk about this truth. There are going to be times when you really don't want to study. You gots to. How I recommend we get over this, I don't feel like studying, how can I actually like do this and do what I need to do, is set a study schedule. And I want you to be reasonable with this. So now drop down to the bottom of the slide with me. When you are creating your study schedule, do not forget to include all the other important things in your life. So for example, I think we're very familiar with our work schedules, right? I work from this hour to this hour these days of the week. But you shouldn't be filling every waking moment with studying, because you should also fill that up with other times, such as exercise and sleep and eating and just plain downtime to not study. You need that mental energy. So, as you are curating your study schedule, I need you to be reasonable with yourself and accommodate and account for these other activities and commitments that are important to you and your health. Okay, so please don't forget that. As you're deciding what your study schedule is going to look like, I want you to break it down by how much time do I want to spend per week studying this material. Okay, once you've got an idea of what that looks like for you, plot that out across your week. I'm not saying that you should study every day. In fact, I would encourage you not to do that. But identify the times and the time blocks on whatever days that you are going to spend studying. The best strategy I have here is probably make it as regular as possible. Like on this day, from this time to this time, I know I'm going to be studying. So for me, what that looked like when during this process is on Sunday afternoons, that was my like big study time. And my husband knew this. And so he knew during that time period, don't bother me. It's like the dog is your responsibility during that time. Dog cannot come in to bother me, etc. As much as I would love Teddy to be in here with me. But we have to really set a study schedule and then stick to it. And don't forget about those other life things that need to happen around the studying. Now, mistake number 3, studying your strengths only. This is very tempting. When we study what we're comfortable with or what we're familiar with, it makes us feel good about ourselves, right? Wow, I really feel good about this material. Check, like, oh, expert, I'm on my way, right? But what happens when we only study the things that we are strong with, that we feel good about, that we have the most experience with, we falsely inflate our perception, our idea of our knowledge. I'm not saying that you're not knowledgeable, right? Please don't misunderstand me. You are extremely knowledgeable. But we cannot neglect other important topics, other concepts, simply because we don't feel like studying them. I kind of, again, going back to this only studying when you feel like it kind of deal. So, again, when you are deciding what to study, here's the process that I want you to take. I want you to first navigate over to the description of specialty practice. That's what the DSP is here that I'm referring to. This is a document that ABPTS, the American Board, ABPTS, the people who put on the board certification exams, every exam, they put out a document that lists the different diagnoses and different impairments that are likely to be assessed on this exam. So for us, for oncology, it's broken down by cancer diagnoses, and then it has a very extensive list of different impairments. And here's what I want you to do. So get that, download it, print it, whatever you need to do. And I want you to grab a pen, and we're going to break this down into 3 different sections. So as you're going through this list of impairments, I want you to check mark your most comfortable areas, the things you are most comfortable with. For me, that's lymphedema. I treat lymphedema practically all day, every day. Like, I know I'm very, very comfortable with that. And I know I would probably like to study that because I already know a whole bunch of stuff. Check mark the things that you are most comfortable with as you're going through this list. And then I want you to circle the areas that you feel most uncomfortable with. Now, there's going to be some in betweens, right? There's going to be some areas where you're not strong in, but you're not completely um, weak in, I guess. These are going to be our middle ground. I want you to underline those. With this system now, we are now going to prioritize the areas you've identified as the ones you are weakest on, the ones you are most uncomfortable with. Start here. Start here with your areas that you're most uncomfortable with. Once you get through those, then we're going to move into the middle ground. And then we are going to finish with our most comfortable areas, the areas, the content, the topic that we have the most experience with, because it will not fail. Pinky promise you, because this definitely happened to me on my exam. Whatever you don't study will be on the exam. That it's just the law, right? It's not an actual law, but I feel like that's exactly what happened to me. Is I definitely put off some stuff because I was like, oh, you know, I don't really need to know that. It's not very common. I don't see it in my practice, so it's probably not going to be on the exam. It was absolutely on the exam. Multiple things. It wasn't just one thing. It was multiple things that I just did not study because I spent so much time focused on my strengths that I definitely forgot and neglected those other areas. So definitely do not make this mistake. Definitely did because, again, definitely made that mistake. All right, mistake number 4, studying, not applying your knowledge. To recap what we've already talked about in this webinar, the Oncology Specialist Certification Exam assesses your ability to apply your knowledge to actual patient cases, right? Every single question that you encounter on the exam, every single one, maybe 0.01% won't be, but 99.99% of the questions that you will encounter on this exam are going to be case, so like patient scenario with information, question related to that scenario. And I would also let you know it's likely going to be multiple questions related to that one patient scenario. It is all case based. Again, the exam is assessing your ability to apply your knowledge to actual patient cases. What this means is that studying the material in the very traditional sense of I sit down and I read an article, or I sit down and I read that big old textbook that is sitting on my bookshelf right off camera here. That does not translate to actually helping a patient. What good is all the knowledge in the world if it stays up here in our brains and we can't actually pull it down out of our brains and use it to help a person get better? It's worthless. And that's exactly what this exam is designed to do. You can cram all the knowledge in your head that you want. If you can't use it, we're not an expert, right? We are not an expert if we can't take that information and actually use it in our practice. So here's how we fix this issue. As you study every single session, right? So by now you've already plotted out your study schedule. Okay, maybe you've identified, okay, this study session, I'm going to work on this. As you're going into this process, as you are studying certain material, ask yourself, who is the patient who has this? I want you to imagine a patient with this diagnosis, with these impairments, with these side effects. Maybe they're a fictional patient. Maybe they're someone you've actually treated in your practice, even better. And once you have that person in your mind, once you have that patient, I want you to start thinking through using the knowledge that you are learning, right? What examination techniques should I use in my evaluation of this person? What are the patient reported outcome measures that I should use when working with this person to appropriately assess, right, their impairments, their deficits? What are the interventions I should implement with this person to help with this issue? Again, whatever that is. Let's say cancer-related fatigue, okay? Something like that, okay? Every single study session that you go in, whenever you are approaching material, you need to be thinking about, how am I going to use this with a patient case? Because again, when you get to that exam, it's all case-based. Patient case, question, 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 related back to this patient case. By starting to practice now, you are already getting into the mindset of what this very, very amazing but hefty exam is all about, right? Now, if you're taking notes right now, so pause and come back to me, okay? One of the most important things to take away from all of this, I said, as you study, imagine the person, ask yourself what exam techniques, what interventions, etc. But here is probably the most important thing you should be asking yourself. Why? Why did I choose that examination technique? Why am I picking that patient reported outcome? Why am I choosing this intervention and this particular dosing at this particular time frame or whatever it is for this patient? Not just the what, but the why. And as you are preparing, this becomes a little easier, but it does take work. And that's part of what distinguishes an expert from a beginner. And that's what this process is really about, kind of scratching away at all of the rough edges that we develop as we are newer oncology physical therapists to ultimately reveal the diamond of the expert onco PT that you are. Asking yourself the why, critical here. So please don't forget that. All right, mistake number 5 is studying all by yourself. Now, I don't know about you, I don't know how you like to study, but when I was in PT school, at least early on in PT school and definitely in undergrad, I like to study by myself, all by myself. Like I would go back to my room and I would study, and it kind of worked. I can't complain too much. It got me to where I am today, but I definitely know how much better I performed in school when I studied with a group, especially in PT school, than I did previously. But it's not just because, you're probably a bad studier by yourself. That's not at all what I'm saying. When we study by ourselves, especially with such a big exam like this beefy, behemoth, Herculean effort of an exam, when we study by ourselves, we are digging ourselves into a hole. Because when we're studying alone, we only have ourselves. We only have ourselves to bounce ideas off of. We might be studying the wrong things. This is a mistake we talked about previously, and not have someone to kind of rein us in and say, hey, have you thought that maybe we should spend a little more time over here doing this thing? Or maybe I think a certain way because I practice mainly by myself as a physical therapist. I have for a good chunk of my career just because of the circumstances that I'm in, and that's okay. But I know I think a certain way, and that's not always necessarily the best thing. It is helpful to be exposed to a variety of different perspectives and approaches as to how you implement things. It's also very helpful when people ask you, even in a very loving, non-judgmental way, why? Why are you choosing to do that? Why are you choosing that approach versus this one? Why are you choosing this dosing? Because again, if I can explain why I'm choosing to do a certain thing and it makes sense and it matches with the research, the literature, the knowledge that is out there, again, this is what really curates us as expert oncology physical therapists. So the last thing I'll leave you with here when it comes to reasons why not to study by ourselves is this process is challenging. I think it's done that way on purpose. But there are going to be times where you get frustrated and disheartened and you lose motivation. And sometimes we can motivate ourselves back to, getting back on the bandwagon. Awesome, amazing. I really admire that about you if this is you. But it's also very helpful to have someone else along for the ride who can pick you back up on those really hard days and say, you are here for a reason and you chose to do this for a reason. And I'm going to make sure you see it through. Because studying is going to get hard. It's not an if, it's a when. Wouldn't it be nice to have someone who's there really encouraging you, who knows what's happening as you're going through it together? I know I definitely want that. and I benefit from that greatly. So here's the fix. Don't study alone for every session. It's okay to study alone for some sessions. In fact, you might find that that is very helpful for you. But having opportunities where you can come together, again, structured, regular opportunities where you can meet with a study buddy or study buddies, again, to share your information, to talk things out with each other, even to challenge each other on, hey, explain to me why you chose to do that versus this, for example. This accountability group setup can really help you keep on track with your studying. Again, studying the right information, taking it from an appropriate approach, but then also stay motivated when the going gets tough. Because again, it's not if, it's when the going gets tough with this kind of an exam. So, this quote here is probably one of the most impactful things when it comes to this previous mistake, which is don't study alone. He who travels alone travels fastest, but in the company of friends, you go farther. And I don't know a better way to make it a more accessible world for people with cancer than to have a community of people with you who are working through this process together, encouraging each other, making sure that you have the knowledge you need to become an expert oncology physical therapist. Again, I'm biased, but I think that's really one of the best things there could be in this entire process. So, who, after all this, is feeling excited and is ready to become an expert oncology physical therapist through studying for your oncology specialist certification exam? If you are feeling this at all, will you please drop a yes in the chat for me? Making sure y'all didn't fall asleep on me. I mean, it is almost bedtime for some of us. So let me know. Are you feeling this? Yes, yes, yep. I love it. Fantastic. Okay, different question. Tell me the best thing that you learned today in our webinar. What stood out to you as a, oh, yes, I needed that. I'm like, oh, that spoke to me. Let me know. Ooh, Jennifer says, make a schedule for my study time. Phew. Yes, yes, 100%. Absolutely. How to prioritize my study? Yes. Agree on schedule, apply knowledge to case scenarios? Yes. Melissa, this is absolutely one of the biggest things. Rachel says, review strengths, weaknesses to prioritize. Absolutely. Prioritize. Oh, wow. I just invented a new word. Prioritizing the weak points first. Yes. Absolutely agree with that. Bingo. Yeah. All really, really good points. I'm going to ask you maybe a more vulnerable question, and I will answer it first so you know that this is not something I wouldn't share with you. What mistake do you feel like you would struggle with the most, or maybe you even have struggled with so far? I actually probably struggled with two the most. So the big one was studying the wrong stuff. I was really good at that. Again, lots of statistics, and I studied a lot on like genetics, which is not important for this exam whatsoever. So I studied the wrong stuff. And I also didn't apply my knowledge. So again, very much I would study information and I would fill my brain full of it, but then I wouldn't actually try to use it with patients. So for me, it was probably mistakes number 1 and 5, I think, were my biggest problems. But again, I made every mistake. All of these mistakes I have made before. Yeah, studying alone and studying strengths, absolutely. Yvonne says, sticking to my study plan. Yes, studying the wrong material. Oh, this one speaks to me. Scattered studying, not focused at all. Random articles unconnected to anything. Oh, maybe that was mistake number 6 that I also made, Jennifer. Absolutely. Yes, these are so common. And whether you're making these mistakes now, whether you've made them in the past, whether you're concerned about making them, like this is a no shame, no judgment space. Because all of these mistakes I have made, all of these mistakes we as a community of board certified clinicians have made, because it's hard, y'all. This is a lot of material and we're doing the best we can. So again, this is no judgment. All of these mistakes have been made before. I've made all these mistakes and more. So again, I really appreciate you being vulnerable with me today. So thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. As I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, it's no longer enough to simply know the facts of cancer rehab. Again, we have kind of skidded by for a while as a profession of like, if I know my patient had cancer and I know a little bit about chemotherapy, like I can probably treat him pretty okay. And that's actually a pretty lazy way to do it. Again, I say this with the have been there and done that. We must, if we're going to truly treat patients well, we must be able to apply our knowledge to actual patient cases. And how we come about this is through studying for the oncology specialist certification exam. I firmly believe this. But like so many physical therapists, you may have trouble knowing how or where to start your exam prep. And while this can lead to a lot of frustration and not feeling like you're prepared for the exam's only a couple months away. What this looks like when we really zoom out and look at this at the heart of this issue, this means that patients are not getting the help that they really need for their impairments. And that is probably one of the most devastating things of all. We can't be having that, right? We need something better. So what I would like from you, I would now like to talk about my new program, Oncology Specialist Bootcamp, but I'm only going to do so if you want to hear about it. So if you would like to hear about it, can you give me a yes in the chat? And while we're waiting, I'm going to grab a little drink of water. Oh man, that was a lot of yeses really fast. Amazing. I love it. Let's dive in, y'all. So my brand new program, Oncology Specialist Bootcamp, is a 10-week program that is going to take you from scattered, hello, that word was just up, scattered, scared, and stressed, to a confident and competent expert onco-PT. Again, if you want to walk into that exam feeling like I am prepared, I prepared for this day, this program is for you. It's broken up into 3 phases. So phase 1, we're talking about the foundations of cancer rehab. What are the basics? And then we're moving out of that, right? Okay, we're going to review some things, diagnoses, treatment, side effects, and then actually moving into what the heck do we do with this information? So really starting in phase 2 is where we treat patients with cancer safely. What are the key lab values and patient presentations that we need to be aware of to say, okay, something's maybe not right here. And also know what are the things that you should be looking out for that should make you say a no to rehab, right? We think about oncologic emergencies, abnormal or really low lab values, or even, ooh, something's going on here. This is not good. We're going to talk about all that and more in our phase 2 of safety. And then phase 3 is really the meat and potatoes. This is our steak dinner of the Oncology Specialist Bootcamp, which is applying your expertise to patient cases. This is where we are taking all of our knowledge that I know you already have and that we're going to continue building on, and how do you actually apply this to patients, both in your practice right now, but also when you encounter those patient case scenarios on the exam. Behind all of this is a thriving, engaged, and active online community where you have 24/7 access to your peers and to the information that they are sharing with you. I'm going to be on there, not 24/7, I'll let you know that, but I will be there answering your questions, providing feedback, guiding you along the way from start to finish so that you know I am on the right path. I am studying the information I know is going to be on the exam. I am applying my knowledge, not just cramming my brain full of information so that I can actually use it later, both on the exam, but also for your actual patients. Now, all this together, this is a $14.99 value. This is like, y'all, we got some hot stuff coming, but we're not done. This is like a as seen on TV. But wait, there's more. Now, I love me some bonuses. And so I thought I'd pass on some bonuses to you too. Now, bonus number one, you are going to get 10 weekly sessions with me where you get to ask me the questions that you have, your burning questions, everything you've ever wanted to know about oncology physical therapy. You, me, and our peers, we are going to be talking about this. 10 weeks, the entire boot camp. This is a $299 value. Bonus number two is our oncology rehab expert sessions. This is probably my favorite. I'm biased, but again, this is probably my favorite because the best way to become an expert is to surround yourself with experts. And I am going to surround you with the best experts there are. I am bringing in other board certified oncology physical therapists and other leading experts in the cancer rehab space to talk about how they use their knowledge to apply it to patient cases, how they encourage you to use your knowledge, how to actually use your knowledge to apply it to different patient populations in different settings, all within oncology physical therapy. Again, I'm biased. This is probably the best part of this entire bootcamp process. This is what made a really significant difference for me when I was studying 2 years ago, is learning from others. And then bonus number three, I don't know the best way to practice for an exam except to practice an exam. I am going to give you case-based practice questions, very similar to how they're going to be on the exam, so that you can actually practice implementing and applying the knowledge that you have amassed over this period to actual patient cases. There is nothing that will prepare you for taking a 7-hour exam. It's just not humanly possible, but I'm going to get you as close as you can to that process. Now, all of this, every single part of it, is backed by my 30-day guarantee. If you do not love this program in 30 days, reach out to me and you get your money back, 100%. I'm that confident in the value of this program and what you're going to get out of it. If you show up and you do the work for this, you are going to get exactly what you are looking for. Now, all this together is a total value of $2,496. But because I am so excited to get you into Oncology Specialist Bootcamp, because I cannot wait to start this process with you, I'm going to get you into the Oncology Specialist Bootcamp for a one-time payment of $999. Now, I know that a one-time price of $999 upfront can be a little daunting. So I've also got my flexible plan, which is 4 monthly installments of $299. So you pay $299 now and then 3 monthly payments of $299 afterwards. This program is the best I have ever created. My heart and soul to make sure that you walk into that exam, March 2023 or whatever that date is for you, and you know, I am ready for this. I have prepared. And when you leave that exam and you go back to your practice, you know, I am ready for whatever patient walks in my door. I may not know everything because we are always going to be surprised by patients, but I feel really good knowing that I can help every patient who comes in my door because I have the expertise to do so. Now, I'm biased, obviously, in telling you that the Oncology Specialist Bootcamp is the best thing to ever happen. But let me tell you, I got some other physical therapists, some other board certified oncology clinical specialists who are going to tell you the same thing. But I want to make sure you know this first. Registration for the Oncology Specialist Bootcamp is only open until December 7th, 2022. So on December 7th, doors close and you cannot join this program until next year. And I cannot guarantee that it is not going to be the same price. It is probably going to increase in price because of how valuable it is. So if you are a little on the fence about this, let me show you some of the text messages that I got from the students that I worked with previously. June 2022, this year, I got these text messages and these DMs from some of my students, like this one who said, "Thank you for all of your help. I passed the board exam. I'm going to cry. I am officially an American board a physical therapy certified oncology specialist. And as you can tell, I'm as excited over text messages and DMs as I am in real life. This is one of the coolest parts of my job, honestly. Seeing all of these amazing text messages, knowing how hard my students worked to make this a reality, and then seeing the byproducts of their hard work and knowing how much better they are able to help their patients is a dream come true. Next up, so this one, passed, was the only message I got because it was that much of a relief. But I do want to call you to this one. So thank you for leading us through it. Look at this message here. Anxiety level has gone from 100 to 0 in about 30 seconds. I had to ask, this is their partner, to verify my results because I didn't believe them. First of all, this person should have believed the results because, again, the amazing amount of work that they put into this. They are experts. They are expert onco-PTs making a positive difference in their patients' lives, in their communities, in their worlds for the better. And that's what we need now more than ever. This one, officially board certified onco-PT. Don't you want to be the one texting me in June of 2023, or again, whenever that is, to say, I passed. Elise, I did what you told me to do and I passed. And I knew I was going to pass this whole time. And then you get to see me putting 35, exclamation points after that. Amazing. Okay, officially passed. I don't know a better feeling than this. It's incredible. I want that to be you. I want you to walk into that exam and know that you prepared for this day and you prepared for all the patients that you are going to see now and after you take that exam, because you are a confident and competent expert onco-PT. Now, again, you can join in today for the one-time payment of $9.99, or if you need a little more flexibility, we are doing that 4 monthly installments. Pay once now and then pay once a month for the next 3 months of $2.99. Plus, I'm going to sweeten the deal a little bit. If you register for the Oncology Specialist Bootcamp within the first 24 hours, so starting at 8 p.m. Central Time, right after this webinar, if you register within the first 24 hours, I'm going to send you my brand new sneaky secret bonus of my study schedule planner. This is going to be your 10-week planner for how you're going to get through this boot camp and how you're going to structure your study sessions, what you're going to study, how you're going to study, who you're going to study with, and when you're going to do that so that you can make the most of your time and actually get stuff done. Because, I mean, come on, y'all. All right, now a couple things, because I know we've got some questions here. So if you've got questions, go ahead and start putting those in the chat. I am going to answer a few here. Here's what students are asking about the Oncology Specialist Bootcamp before they actually hit enroll. So first of all, when does it start? So enrollment starts now and then closes December 5th. Or, sorry, December 7th. I'm so sorry. Closes December 7th, 2022. Once you enroll in the boot camp, you have lifetime access to the modules, meaning that for the lifetime of this program, from now until I turn 138, or, like whenever I die, you are going to have access to this program. The program, so the actual boot camp is going to start on Monday, December 12th. That's when the first modules drop, but the registration closes December 7th, 2022. Next question I get a lot. What's the return policy? I want you to feel 100% on this. I want you to feel prepared and take the plunge into oncology specialization, because it has been the best thing I've ever done, and know it's going to be the best thing that you've ever done too. If you have done the work, if you show up and you do the material, you are doing the work and you still don't like it, you feel like, you know what, this is not what I was looking for, reach out within 30 days and I will give you a full refund of your purchase. Pretty sweet deal, if I do say so myself, right? Now, next up, could I prepare for the oncology specialist exam on my own? Yes, you can. I did it. I would not recommend it. It's very easy to get lost in the mess. Maybe you're experiencing this yourself. Maybe you've heard of others experiencing this yourself. It is so easy to get overwhelmed by the mess and just kind of throw your hands up in the air and say, I'm going to come back to this later. And frankly, procrastinate until the exam is weeks away. As in like 3 weeks away, and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm not ready. You have spent all this time and all this effort. You owe it to yourself to be ready for this. I want that for you. Now, what if I'm not taking the exam in 2023? Maybe not even for a couple of years. Can I still enroll in the boot camp? Is it still helpful? Absolutely. And it's even better, and because of this, because you have lifetime access to the program, to the modules, you are automatically going to get all of the updates that we do to the modules as the exam changes, as our knowledge and awareness of oncology physical therapy changes. You're going to get those updates. So when you're ready to take the exam, the program is there for you. It'll be there. We're here for you. But I really encourage you, sign up today. Do I have a limited time to actually access the boot camp, to actually like get into those modules? Short answer is no. Once you enroll, you have lifetime access to the oncology specialist boot camp. So again, even if you're not sitting for the exam for a while, you get all the updates and all the changes that we make over the years whenever you're ready for them. But remember, enrollment is closing at 7 p.m. So a week from, well, however many days that is. December 7th, 2022 is when registration closes. So make sure you are enrolled before then. Now, lastly, because I know you're probably asking this is the last one we've got here. Does the Oncology Specialist Bootcamp have CEUs? We are seeking CEU approval for 20 credit hours in 40 plus states. There's a really good chance that you're going to be on there because we've got most of the states covered. So with that, if you're ready to become an expert onco-PT and you don't want to put it off anymore, let's get started. Am I right? So right now, I am dropping a link in the chat. For those of you who are listening, it is the oncopt.com/bootcamp, the oncopt.com/bootcamp. And that is where you are going to go, click on that link and register for the boot camp. I cannot wait to see you there. I will stay on for just a couple more minutes. If you have other questions you want me to answer, I will stay on here, like I said, for just a couple more minutes. Otherwise, I cannot wait to see you inside this. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to your patients. You owe it to your communities to stop settling for just knowing the facts and knowing the basics. Let's get started and be the expert. Ooh, yes, good question. The program starts on Monday, December 12th. Correct. So how this works, how this process works, every Monday morning, there are going to be modules that release. Okay, those are the modules that we encourage you to go over for that week. And then we are going to have office hours. So those are those Q&A sessions with me once a week, where we will talk about the different questions that you have. If you can't make them live, there's also the opportunity for you to submit questions, and I record all of those for your reference. So if you can't make them live, you can always re-watch those on our community platform and get that information. So every Monday, modules drop. Every week, we also have those question and answer sessions with me where I answer any and all the questions you have about cancer rehab, oncology, physical therapy that you want me to. So that's the first part of the course, okay? And that schedule is going to be, that process is throughout the entire 10 weeks. Those, so the bonus of the oncology rehab experts, those come in the second half of the course. So we do the same thing. We're still doing the modules drop on Monday, and then we do our question and answer session. And then we also have those bonus oncology rehab expert sessions where these experts come in and they're going to answer your questions and instruct you on how to apply your knowledge for that. Thank you for asking that. I really appreciate that. Other questions? Can you tell I'm really excited about this? Oh my God, I'm so excited about this boot camp. Ugh, amazing. All right, I'll hang out for just a couple more minutes. Again, that link is theoncopt.com/bootcamp. Register there. Again, make sure to register before the cart closes on December 7th, 2022. That price is likely to go up in 2023, so make sure you get on that. It is not going to open again until later in the year 2023. So this is your one chance to get in before, again, you have to wait for about or so. So it's going to be a hot minute. Thank you so much for joining me, y'all. I really appreciate your time. I really, really look forward to getting all of those amazing, exciting text messages and DMs when you pass the oncology specialist certification exam. Text me in June, message me in June, but hopefully I see you in the oncology specialist bootcamp before then. So thank you so much for joining me this evening. I really appreciate your time, and I hope to see you in the oncology specialist bootcamp. Take care.